Hey guys, it's your girl Shelone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. How are you? Wagwan. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And before I jump into this video, guys, I recorded this yesterday. Didn't turn on my audio, so second time's the charm. Okay guys, so I wanted to make a video on the total cost to immigrate to Canada. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is because the cost has increased so much over the years. I just want people to understand that it's pretty much using your life savings to immigrate to a new country, and the money that it costs to immigrate to Canada, you could actually set up your life in other places. You could use this to buy a home, you could use this to like invest and start a retirement fund. It's very expensive to immigrate to Canada, and I just wanted to break down those costs for you. Today I will be covering the costs to immigrate, starting as a student, from a student to a work permit, from a work permit to permanent resident, and from permanent resident to citizenship. So I will include the entire cost for that entire period, and kind of give you an understanding of what the cost to like the full immigration process would look like. And at the end of the video, I will add everything tallied and I'll put it on the screen for you guys so you could actually have a big view of that, or get an overall view of the figure, I should say, so that you can make an informed decision before you decide to immigrate to this country of Canada. So the first thing I want to break down for you is the student permits and the open work permit if you have a spouse. So I will be breaking down expenses if you're a family of two with no children. If you have children, of course, the prices are gonna be more and you have to factor that in. So depending on where you're coming from in the world, of course, you're going to have to factor in plane tickets. I did not include plane tickets in the cost breakdown because that will differ depending on where you're coming from. So for your study permit, a study permit costs $150. So as a primary applicant, you would pay $150 for your study permit, $85 for your biometrics, and a TRV for $100. Okay, so after you paid for that, of course, you're gonna have to pay for police records. I don't know what this looks like in individual country, but in Jamaica, where I'm from, at the time this cost about $65, and I'm giving you real life figures from real life students, real life people who came here to study more recently. I didn't come here to study, I landed as a permanent resident, just a heads up there. So of course there's that, just the entire application, right? So you have to factor in school fees. Now, depending on how long you're going to study here, guys, school fees in Canada can cost close to $19,200 per year for international students, and that is quite expensive. For reference, you're probably paying a fraction of this if you actually study in your home country. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. Do you want to spend $19,000 on 1 year of study? I don't know anybody who would want to do that unless they actually want to stay in this country for the long term. And if you decide to do 2 years, that's like $40,000, and that is so expensive because that's a great nest egg to purchase your first home. These are some things that you need to take into consideration. Of course, as I mentioned, plane tickets will differ, and usually if you're studying for school, if you don't have a laptop, you have to factor in the cost of a laptop. Okay, living expenses, rent can bring you from anywhere between $850 to maybe $1,400. And the reason why the gap is so large is, I guess, it will depend from province to province, and it will also determine whether or not you want to share your living expenses. So if it's on the lower side of $850, you're probably going to have a roommate, and if you're coming with a spouse, that may not be ideal. So you're more than likely looking at maybe at least a $1,400 for rent. Of course, you have to take into consideration travel expenses, at least $200 for both of you, to maybe purchase a bus pass, and this is not taking in consideration car. So if you're used to the luxuries of driving, it's not so cut and dry in Canada. You know, you can't just come into Canada and be like, oh, I'm gonna just buy a car and drive. I mean, you could technically, but you're gonna pay through the nose with insurance, so it's probably not going to be worth it if you intend on saving money when you're already spending so much on all of these costs. So there's that. In regards to, let's say, maybe groceries, and when I say groceries, I mean like food, toiletries, etc. That will range about $400 per person, so maybe $800 for you and your spouse. So those are some things that you need to take into consideration for living expenses. Now, to touch back on the work permit for your spouse, you're looking at $150 for an open work permit, $85 for biometrics again, and $100 TRV. Another $65 for police records in Jamaica, and of course more plane ticket costs. So these are just some expenses off the bat that you can get an idea of how much it will cost just to like get yourself into Canada. But let's say it's been a year or 2 years, you have finished your diploma, your postgraduate certificate, whatever it is that you decided to come here to study. Now it's time to actually apply for your postgraduate work permit. So the primary applicant in that case then would now spend $45 on their transcript, because apparently you need your transcript to apply for your postgraduate work permit, of course, because you came here to study, Shelone. And then you need to apply for a work permit. Now, at this point, your spouse, who was your now open work permit, their open work permit is tied to your study permit. So when your study permit expires and you need to apply for a postgraduate work permit, your spouse now, their open work permit expires, and they also now need to apply for a new work permit that will expire the same time as your spouse's work permit. So not only do you have to apply for a postgraduate work permit, but your spouse now has to apply for an open work permit extension, and that's another $255. Now, let's say, so now both of you have a work permit, right? And it's been another year, you've worked, whether it has been 1 year, if you've studied 1 year, or 3 years, if you decided to do a 2-year program. But I'm giving you the scenario from a 1-year perspective. So after 1 year, it's time to apply for it's time to jump into the pool. You have 1 year of Canadian experience, and you want to get in the expert entry pool and apply for permanent residence. Now, you have to get your credentials assessed. That is $350 per person, so that's $750 just to get your past education credentials assessed. And then you have to do your English test. Here in Canada, most people do the CELPIP, so that's going to be $320 per person. So that's $750 to get your credentials assessed, and another $640 to take 2 English tests. Right? Yep. So, in order to prep for the application as well, you will need to get your fingerprints done here in Canada, since you've been here for a couple of years at this point. And the fingerprints for 2 people are $140, and the police records cost $360 for both you and your spouse. So just to do police records here, it's $500 for 2 people. And I'm not sure if you remember how much I said earlier, but that for 1 person in Jamaica, that would cost $65. For the permanent resident application, the application fee alone is $950. And this is different from the right of permanent residence fee, which is $575. This was way cheaper back when I applied for permanent residence, by the way. You have to submit a biometric fee, a family biometric fee, because you're submitting the application as a family this time, and that's $170. So you have to pay $950, and then $575, and then another $950 and a $575 again fee. Yes, you can pay the permanent resident fee, and then once it's approved, you could pay the right of permanent residence fee. But to me, it just sounds like fee grab. You know, it's giving money grab, because why are you paying a right of permanent residence fee differently from a permanent resident application fee? I just think it's a way to justify the high cost to apply for the application, and that's just it. But anyways, that's just what it is, and I'm just giving you how it is right now. And of course, as I mentioned, the family biometric fee. So in addition to that now, because remember, their work permit would technically be expired because they only have like 1 year work permit, and then they're submitting it right away. They're applying for their PR right as their work permit is about to expire. This is where another this is where another work permit application comes in. So now they have to pay for an um, open work permit fee and a bridging permit fee. So you have the open work permit holder fee, and then you also have the bridging work permit. So it's kind of crazy. So it's so crazy, guys. It's the same application, it's the same application, but 155 is for the bridging open work permit, and the other fee is for the open work permit fee. So you're paying to bridge it, and then you're paying to apply for it. So together it's 255 for the primary applicant, and then the spouse pays another $255. So I know it's a lot to keep track of, guys, but it's very expensive. And the school fees and the application alone for 1 year, 1 year of study, school fees, and just the fees to apply for everything was $27,500. And you're not including like cost of living. So guys, I really, really, really want you to take this into consideration before you make the move. It's not an inexpensive journey that you'll be on here if you decide to immigrate to Canada, and it's a lot of fees. And after all of that, we ended up paying, I believe we paid $1,260 for both me and my husband's citizenship application. At this point, it's been over a year since we applied. But yeah, we paid about $1,260 for both me and my husband's application. So you still have to take those things into consideration. Make sure that you put away a little nest egg, just to apply for those things when it comes up. So that's what the entire kind of like application looks like, and the cost to live here in Canada. What I will do a quick calculation of just 1 year. So the $27,000, the $500, the fees, plus the total amount of living expenses that it would take for maybe 2 years until you can like apply for your permanent residence. So I'll put it on the screen here. So this is the amount it costs to immigrate to Canada. It is not cheap, guys. It's definitely not cheap, and you really can't judge people for not wanting to come to this country at the end of the day. It's a sacrifice that a lot of people make, knowing that they're using a lot of money that they could otherwise use to enrich their lives in other ways. So yes, while it may look like, oh yeah, oh, they're living a great life, people made a lot of sacrifices to be here. But yeah, that's pretty much what it costs. I just really wanted to put that information out there, because it's something that I didn't really see, like from that student to citizenship perspective, where you're given that holistic picture of what that would look like in terms of overall cost. But anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a thumbs up, and sharing is caring. If you know anyone that is in need of like maybe this reality check before they make their jump, then you could definitely send it to them so they can understand what it costs to move here. And if you made it to this far in the video, leave some money emojis in the comment section, and I'll be sure to show you guys some love and shout you out on my next video. I really appreciate all engagement, so thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.